Hello everyone, and welcome to the 37th episode of the Little Thespian Podcast. On today's episode, we talk to the amazingly talented, gifted actor, writer, and now published author, the incredible Sunshine herself returns to the Little Thespian Podcast to talk all things What If the Sun Died? Her new book. Her name is Samara O'Gorman, and I am truly honored to welcome her back on the Little Thespian Podcast today. So without further ado, let's hop into this special 37th episode of Little Thespian Podcast. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 37th episode of the Little Thespian Podcast. On today's episode, we have an incredible actress, amazing person, activist, and all-around incredible human being, and now published author, the amazing Samara O'Gorman, rejoining us here on the podcast. Thank you so much, Sam, for being on.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So it's been 35 episodes since we last seen you, and you've been doing quite a bit, as now you are a published author with your new book, What If the Sun Died? Which we're going to talk all about today, and it's going to be a blast, and I'm looking forward to it. So before we hop into that, though, I always say, guys, unfortunately, we are not out of the woods with COVID quite yet. We are almost there, but not quite there yet. So please wash your hands, wear a mask, and socially distance where you can. And if you guys want to, get the vaccine, that would help a lot of people. So please do your part in whatever way you can. Let's go from something a bit darker and, to something bright and fulfilling, which is your new book. So The first question that I wanted to ask, what inspired your book?
Oh my goodness. Well, I feel like it's just this giant umbrella of things. It started a while ago. A lot of people ask me like, oh, did you always have the idea for the book in your head? And I actually didn't. So one of the first poems in the book is from like 2016. And the latest poem in the book is from like March of this year. So it spans over like a 5-year period. And back in like 2016, 2017, 2018, I didn't know that I was forming a book with all these poems that I was writing. I was basically just frantically writing my emotions and feelings in like your notes app, like that you have on your phone. And then kind of like blanketing them with like imagery and metaphors and like different like references, whether it be from like Shakespeare or like Greek mythology, like pulling all of these things from different realms of my life. I guess that could be an inspiration, but and then it kind of just formulated into this big package of poems that I guess 2 or 3 years ago I was like, I can make a book out of this. Yeah, what inspired it? I guess I inspired it myself, because the book is kind of the 3 stages of grief that I went through, the 3 chapters. So whilst I was writing it, it happened all very organically and naturally. So I guess, yeah, I inspired it myself with what I was going through at the time.
That's incredible. I mean, I find that when you write something that's so deep within you, it's so much more authentic. And I also I love the fact that it's just poem after poem after poem. There's no explanation. You know what I mean? It's a poem
Yes.
collection. And I wanted to ask, why poetry? Why was that the main focus? Because we also know you're an actress. So why not a play? Why not a fiction? Why?
Yeah, that's such a good question, right? Because a lot of people didn't see this coming. I guess I announced it very out of the blue, and people were like, "Oh, I didn't know you wrote poetry." And like I had mentioned before, I didn't even know that I was writing poetry myself until, well, let me preface this by saying I used to post my poems on Twitter a lot. I don't know if you know, remember that, Matthew, in college, but like I would post my thoughts and poems on Twitter, and I got a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is actually really good work," or "Oh, this made me happy today," or "Oh, this poem made my day. It made me really hopeful and stuff." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And yeah, I guess why poetry? I mean, I feel like poetry, like you said, it's so authentic, and it's so one of those art forms that is so raw and so personal. And I guess I took from all of my previous skill sets. I learned so much in theater and theater school and like Shakespeare's sonnets. And also like whilst in Irish studies, I learned a lot by Butler Yeats, which is a poet too. He has amazing work. And I guess I took from all these different realms and I was creating poetry. But again, I didn't even know that I was creating poetry when it was happening. And like it says on the book, it's poetry and thought. So there's some very short passages that are just like 4 words. Some are just one sentence. Um, so it's very like sporadic, and you could read it, just it flows very nicely, and it's just kind of my thought process, I would say.
Yeah, and I do remember you going on Twitter, and I was asking because again, a lot of it's about grief, and I was asking Sam, "Are you
Yeah.
okay?" Because everything go like, "Are you okay?" But honestly, yes, the poetry is incredible in the book, and I've been reading it as much as I possibly can, um, and it truly is inspiring, and just uh, as much as like I'm used to plays or whatnot, picking up poetry, there's something different about it, and it definitely just attacks you straight to the heart, and it's
Yeah.
something that people should be doing more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. It's a wonderful outlet to get your feelings out, even if you have to blanket them within metaphors and imagery and Greek mythology like I did.
I also wanted to ask, because I found something that was very interesting, is why aren't there any page numbers or titles in your book?
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I always knew that there wouldn't be page numbers. My publisher asked me a couple of times if I wanted, and we tried it out. It never really worked, and I don't think it worked aesthetically either. And yes, this is a book of poetry, but also it's a book of thought, and I really want people to know that as well. And thoughts are very sporadic. Sometimes they just flow in a really weird and genuine way, you know? And I think having titles and numbers would give it structure, but it just doesn't work for thoughts, right? It could work for poems, but then again, I don't even title my poems. So there's no like actual coherent table of contents either. Um, yeah, my book in a way, it's like the 3 stages of grief that I went through, like I mentioned before, 3 stages of like heartbreak and healing. Sunset, which is depression, renewal, which is acceptance and healing, sunrise, which is total freedom from those dark feelings, And personally, I feel like when you read it, you can jump back and forth throughout these three stages of grief, three chapters. You could pick up the book in any stage, because sometimes once I was in sunrise in my own life, I jumped back to sunset, or I jumped back to renewal. When we're grieving, we can get really sad and we could go right back to where we started again. So I feel like with page numbers and titles, it would be really structured, and I didn't want my book to feel like that. I wanted it to feel very free flowing, kind of like a boat on the ocean. You can go back and forth, kind of like flowing organically, I guess. And also, I'm just going to say here, it's important to mention, if you want to quote something from my book and you're watching this podcast right now, just put a passage in quotations and then put a dash and write the chapter name, because there are no page numbers. And of course the title too.
I mean, yeah, that's true. Huh? Like if you wanted to quote something, it'd be very almost difficult to be like, well, this came from What If the Sun Died?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it really plays to what the book's called too. If you're talking about, going and having that nice drift on the ocean, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, I know it's almost a sad metaphor, right? What if the sun died? It sounds sad, right?
Mm-hmm.
But where exactly did the title come from for you?
Yeah. So I went through a lot of titles before I chose this one, like years ago. But this one I think I found late 2019. And it was an instant winner in my head. It fits so well. And I think I was going through a lot of different structures of the title, lots of different blueprints at the time. And as you know, you call me Sunshine, right? Like our drama ensemble used to call me Sunshine. I was a camp counselor and all the kids called me Sunshine. And like the sun as a planet and as a symbol has always followed me throughout my life. Like it's always been there for me. A lot of poets, they say they talk to the moon, but for me, it was always the sun. Um, and yeah, it's just, I remember actually I think in creation class once with TLC, we had to do like this timeline of life, and people were sharing really, really deep stories. I don't know if you remember that exercise. I always go back to drama school, so many inspirations there, but I remember the story that I shared was actually quite simplistic, and it was about a bus ride that I took in high school and just feeling the sun rays on my skin. And our teacher at the time was like telling me, "Oh, did you want to share more in depth?" Or I'm like, "No, that's actually like the essence of the story, just feeling sunlight on your skin and simple pleasures, like human existence and all that, like just the genuine human emotions I feel like my book is really about." But the title, like, what if the sun died, right? I feel like we went through that ourselves. We were stuck inside the past year. We didn't get to see the sun. We didn't go outside. What if all the sunlight in your life died? You didn't get to see your friends. You didn't get to go to school. So what if, And there's actually a book when I was little by Shel Silverstein. I don't know if you've ever read him, but he's a poet. And there was this poem at the end of one of his books that was like, what if this? What if this? What if this? And it's really like an open ending thing. But there's also, I don't know if you know, there's no question mark at the end. It's just a statement. What if the sun died? It's just a statement, and it like leaves you pondering. But the last poem in the book will answer your question for that without any spoilers.
I'm even more intrigued. But that's true. I mean, when you're thinking about it from where we're at in life at the moment, we really have been living without any sun, if you want to think about it that way, because we have been stuck inside and like just in grief and being, almost sad because we can't do normal things, right?
Yeah.
And definitely with this book, you've explored so many like amazing new ways to be thinking about, what would happen if this were to happen, right? It's a sad metaphor, guys, but it's also a hopeful one come the end, right?
Absolutely, Matthew. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you guys want to, this is a podcast, it's always positivity. So, if you guys want to think about it in this way, You know what I mean? We have been dealing with some tough stuff recently, right?
Mm-hmm.
Been, hit with reality, right? That you don't always get what you want, right? And now we're near that peak, right? We're almost there.
Mm-hmm.
We're not quite there yet, but we're in the renewal stage. If we want to go
Yes.
based off Sam's book, and we're almost at sunrise.
Yes.
So
There is a light at
we
the
go
end of
off
the
that.
tunnel.
There is, and yeah, I'm looking forward to that light, as I hope everyone is too. Um, I actually want to ask also about your publisher though,
Yeah.
because why LaBee? Why did you partner with LaBee? What was the story there?
Yeah, for sure. So I think winter of 2020, I was looking at self-publishing actually. And I thought I'm a very independent person. I like to take the reins on a lot of projects. So I was going to do the whole thing independently, which looking back would have been a disaster. Um, so, but I think it was a little bit after that, when COVID hit, and then I had to take a step back from my book and work on it harder because there was no way I would have released this last year. And it's good that I didn't because I got to perfect it better. I met Lori, but yeah, it was during COVID where I was looking at local publishers because there was just this surge of supporting local. One of my goals with the book ended up being support local. And there were a whole bunch of local publishers. And LaBie actually was founded in September of 2020, like in the darn middle of the pandemic. So, yeah, I contacted her and she loved my work. She actually specializes in poetry and memoir, and she's a writer herself, a little bit older than me. Like, she lives in Verdun, she's Verdun based. She was great to work with. She's so organized and so lovely and so nice. And she really took my unique style of writing and went with it because I could be when you're working with margins and like formatting pages, my writing, I don't know if you've reached it yet, but sometimes it's like all over the page. Um, yeah, that's just the way I write. But she worked with it, and I'm really, really glad I found her. Why LaBie? Maybe it was written in the stars. I don't know. It was just meant to be, honestly. I found her, I reached out, she loved my work, and the rest was history.
It's great that you're also I didn't remember that it is local, right?
Yeah.
And it's true during this time we've been, we've needed to really support our local businesses and whatnot. And there's also jack.org that, you've been helping out too, which incredible. I'm going to be linking all the stuff down below, guys. So please go check everything out and get the book. Please get the book. Um, yeah, it's, I mean, match made in heaven, right?
Yeah.
And at the perfect time.
Yes.
So that's good. That's great. Um, I also want to ask because unfortunately, a lot of people I ask on the podcast all the time words of wisdom for actors and stuff like that. But in regards to writing, a lot of people are scared to write their thoughts, scared to write things that, come up and don't want to, touch it or whatnot. Do you have any words of wisdom for someone who may want to write but is scared to do so?
Yeah, of course. Well, I guess, well, Matthew, you know this, my background is in acting and performing. Both of ours are. But I feel like if there's anything that our director, Andy, in college really um, pushed us to do is to work in all forms of art, try everything. And look at you now, you're doing podcasts and you're doing really well. New guest every other week. That's a different form of art, and I'm always creating. I mean, my heart lies on the stage and on acting, but I always want to try something new. And I feel like if you're an artist and you use that side of your brain, um, try everything. If you're a news reporter, dabble in sculpting. If you're a painter, try filmmaking. Like, there's endless possibilities. And even though I was an actor, I found that writing and writing poetry in particular was an outlet for me that really helped me in the time without even me knowing it. And I guess words of wisdom that I can say is write everything down. Write everything that you feel down, or draw it if you're that type of medium. Draw your feelings down, paint your feelings down, whatever you feel in the moment. Because I read somewhere once that a thought is kind of like a bubble, and it floats from brain to brain. And if you don't utilize it in that moment, if you don't write it down, someone else is going to get that bubble and they're going to use that thought. So just write it down. It doesn't matter if it's perfected, it doesn't matter if you're going to publish it the day after. Just write your thoughts down, create, wake up and create every day. It doesn't have to be perfect. As Andy said, organized chaos is the best way to go. And if you are thinking about writing a book, I would say finish it first. Like before reaching out to any publisher, before thinking about like marketing or anything, just finish it first and see that finished product in your hand and like feel fulfilled about the work that you had made, and then move on from there. But yeah.
I can't add, guys. But it is true. It's great to think about it that way. That it's almost a bubble that has been transferred. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
as someone, I mean, I haven't wrote a book. I haven't had the discipline to write a book, but I have wrote plays before. And you really need to be disciplined to finish the book, finish whatever you're doing, and then take that next step. And if we are talking about actors, I mean, I know a lot of my audience is actors and people that are in the arts, in theater and whatnot. But guys, you really have to dabble in all sorts of things. It's
Yes.
life, right? You continue to grow and you continue to further your intelligence by doing all sorts of different things. And writing a book is very intelligent and just allows you to get all those thoughts. And poetry, if we're going back and thought in the thought process of just writing a book, and we're using acting and whatnot for that, it is so easy to jump into characters and stuff like that. And if you are an artist, right? So put those on the page. What's going to go wrong, guys? Like I say, always take that leap. What, like, there's someone who would be there to catch you, right? And whether it's a publisher or whether it's yourself that needs to catch yourself, right? You'll be fine. So just take that leap, and do something different every day. Why not? You have the time, right? So do it. I actually only have 2 more questions left, and I can do this all day. I mean, I really can. But I want to ask, is there anything in the pipeline after this book? Are you thinking about writing more poetry? Are you thinking about doing a sequel? Is there anything that you may want to, explore?
Oh, this has been a long time coming. What If the Sun Died? Like I said, the first poem was in 2016, and it was kind of like when I published it on Sunday, I feel like that was a stage in my life, and now I'm moving on to another stage. It's like 2 eras. I've finally been like freed in a way, because all of my thoughts are going to be perceived by other people. So I don't know at the moment. I really, really want to focus on this book as much as possible. I want to talk about it like with people like you. I really want to work on it this entire summer, as much as I can, and then I'll start thinking. I'm always writing, right? Like I've now that I'm a published author, I feel like it's kind of part of me now and it's always going to follow me. I'm constantly writing in my notes apps still. So we'll see what happens. Maybe there's something this fall that will go with this one. That's all I'm going to say, in the same realm.
I'm looking forward to whatever that fall is. And I mean, yeah, I mean, if it's anything like this, guys, and it's anything like her amazing notes, which I can only imagine on her app, it's probably full. Mine probably has like 2 notes, but hers is probably a whole book. But honestly, I cannot wait. And the last question, which I guess is more of a statement: where can they pick up What If the Sun Died? And um, what exactly do you want people to know? If there's any long, lingering thing that you want them to know leaving the podcast today.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, Matthew. You've always been such a support system for me. Not only are you my friend, but I feel like you've just been such a support with this entire book release. So I just want to say thank you. And if you want to pick up the book, again, Matthew's going to link all of the links below. You can just go to labi.ca and all the links are there. It's on Amazon right now, paperback and ebook, but Labi and I are working with distributors. So hopefully in the summer, it'll be at Indigo, a local bookshop in your area in Montreal, because support local is my aim right now. And I'm also going to have copies myself. So if you know me personally, or if you want to come to a reading and a signing that I'm doing in late July, everyone who's watching this is invited. More info on that on my socials later. But yeah, I'm doing a reading and signing in July, and you could actually pick up a copy there if you feel more comfortable just buying it in person the day of. And yeah, also, I think I should plug, I made a commercial for this book, and that was a whole other process. And it was shot and co-directed by Christian Sosa, and he's really, really talented. And we had a whole like blueprint and shot list for this, and he's really amazing. It was a 3-day shoot, and they're separated into 3 chapters. So there's 3 mini teasers and then 1 full commercial, which is on my Instagram, on my YouTube, and on Labi too. So check that out if you want some visuals for the book. Like whilst reading the chapters, if you want to like look back at the commercials, it's really fun to pinpoint like certain poems in that. Any lingering thoughts? I guess I would just say whoever hands this book falls into, whoever happens to buy it, if you're going through a really tough time in your life and if you are grieving, I would say that just persevere through the darkness and learn from those dark times, to make it through to the light, because there's always going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always going to be happier days in your future, but also live in the present. Every day is a gift. And yeah, it gets better. It really, really does get better. And yeah.
That's an amazing way to end it off. As you guys heard, go July, get a signing, get your book wherever you can. Yeah, what an amazing way to end that off. It's true, guys. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. I know it's been crazy last 2 years. But even if it's not about these last 2 years, but you're just in a bad spot, there's always that light there. Well, I'm hoping the sun never dies. No. But because it's beyond beautiful when you do get to there, guys. So please continue to shine your light. And with that being said, we are at the end of the podcast, which I always try to let on my guests. And again, it's going to be hard because I literally have to talk about the sunshine herself, Samara O'Gorman. So Sam, I mean, you know what I think about you. You are incredible and you continue to persevere. It's true. A lot of us have been persevering during this time, and it just shows how resilient we are. But you have always put in the work wherever you need to put the work in. And you continue to surprise me, and you know how proud I am of you. It's just, thank you so much for being on. You know what I think. You are beyond incredible, and you should continue to strive on and do amazing things, because I know you're going to. So your future is beyond bright, and I cannot wait to see what's next.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching.
Yes, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all on the next Little Thespian Podcast. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
The lights are off. The curtain has fallen. And it's time to say goodbye. Thank you all for joining us on the Little Thespian Podcast. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to ask, either down below or on any of our platforms. What an incredible episode that was, and I truly cannot wait for you guys to see the next episode, which is amazing as well, as we have actress, singer, playwright, and all-around great human being, Riley Wilson, joining us in episode 38 to talk all things Into the Woods, You Can't Take It With You, Gut Girls, Shed, and of course, Dirty Mirror Collective. It's going to be a great time in episode 38 of the Little Thespian Podcast when we talk to Riley Wilson. Thank you all for watching, listening to this episode of Little Thespian Podcast, and thank you guys so much for the amazing support you guys continue to give us over these last 37 episodes, and I know you guys are going to be so supportive as we move closer and closer to 40 episodes. And by doing that, all you need to do is like, comment, and subscribe to us here on YouTube, guys. It helps us out tremendously. Also, don't forget to ring the bell so you're notified of all future videos. And I also want to personally thank Samara for joining us back on the podcast, because actors can write sonnets too. And her book, What If the Sun Died, is available now on Amazon and Libby. You guys definitely need to go check it out. You guys can see all the information here, and I definitely suggest to pick up this copy. She's an amazing person and an amazing author, so you guys definitely need to go and check that out. We've talked all about it, and you guys definitely now need to do your part and pick up the book. So thank you all for watching, listening. This has been your host, Matthew Crandall, telling you guys to always shine bright, and we'll see you all on the next Little Thespian Podcast.